Guys, is this thing on?
Oh, shut up. Whatever.
Presenting the Dead I Overshare podcast.
Just say it.
What is up, besties? It is your host, Zoe, and I am back with another motherfucking episode on the Did I Overshare podcast today. I hope you guys are doing well. You're doing great. Life is beautiful. Because, God made gross. Sorry, that song has been stuck in my head all day. TikTok, I fear, is ruining me. But today, okay, well, first of all, I want to start saying this at the beginning of my episodes. If you end up liking this episode, please rate the show and then leave a review if you feel so inclined. And then add the Did I Overshare Instagram and the Did I Overshare TikTok. I'm active on both. I also respond to you guys on both. And also, I would love if you guys take pictures when you guys watch the podcast and then upload it. Let me know how you're enjoying it so far. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say at the beginnings now. But today's episode is how to catch your own shortcomings. And what I mean by this is, how do we know when we are wrong, or how can we learn when to take accountability and how to take accountability effectively? Correct? I would also like to say this. Okay. I fear I might be getting sick again. My immune system has never, ever been bad. Like, I'm that bitch that I'm rarely sick. And if I get sick, it's like a little sniffles for a couple days. That's it. Like, that is it. And oh my gosh, this year I have been sick, I feel like, every fucking day. And it's also going around at work, so I don't know if I'm just catching it twice or what the hell is happening, but I'm getting stressed out. I would love for that to be known. But disregard. Be open to being self-aware. Not everything is an attack on your character. And I really had to learn this because I feel like me being an overly sensitive person and then growing up with a lot of people, like when growing up for me, I more so got the silent treatment. When something was wrong, or let's say I did something, I got the silent treatment from my parents and from siblings, and nothing was ever communicated effectively with me. Or even if it wasn't a silent treatment and there was something going on in the house, like let's say there was an argument, a fight, bad day at work or something like that, it also wasn't communicated, so I didn't know where their emotions were going. So I think that affects me as an adult today because I tend to think everybody is mad at me. I tend to think that basically I'm the damn center of fucking attention. Like, I in the root cause of every issue, and I feel like everything is an attack on my character. Right? That is a shortcoming I have had to learn how to get myself out of. Like, that mindset is extremely toxic, especially if we as humans can accept that we have bad days, and I don't mean to put all that misdirected anger on you because I'm having a bad day. Like, that's my fault. But I feel like we have to see it vice versa as well. Not everybody's going to have a good day. And I really had to learn this with Michi because he's very much a person okay, well, I would love to say we all know he's a Scorpio moon, correct? Like, that man does not deal with his fucking emotions at all. Like, maybe I don't know. I'm not even going to say he does. But he doesn't communicate them. He doesn't really talk about them. That's just who he is as a person. And for me, I'm very on the other side of that. I'm overly sensitive about my emotion. I talk too much about my emotions. Hence, did I overshare? Like, I'm very upfront with it. So for me, combating that with him is when he just goes quiet, kind of, or he's just having, in my head, it seems like a really down day. Like, he's upset, he's sad, or anything like that. But it's just really not his day. He doesn't really know what's going on in his mind. Everything's kind of scrambling, stuff like that. But he also doesn't voice it. I've had to learn that with him. If I can have these days where I'm too loud and angry and stressed out and pissed off at the whole world, then so can he. And that is one of my shortcomings I've had to deal with, especially when feeling like everything's an attack on your character. Like, I feel like everything is always out to hurt me or something's wrong, which is very conceited of me. Yes, I know. And yes, I have been working on it. It doesn't really happen much anymore. I feel like I'm less verbal about it, but I'm still trying to work it out in my head, which is growth is growth regardless. Even if it's not a trait we think we want to have, like, we don't even want to accept it. I've had to accept that because it plays a very big part in my relationships. And if I want to have a healthy relationship, I need to learn how to manage that, correct? So recognizing things like that in your life that do affect these relationships, I say maybe ask the person you're in this relationship or friendship with, hey, how can I be a better friend? What are some things I lack out on or that you need from me as a person, correct? And then vice versa. But I feel like a lot of us need to understand that we're toxic too. You're not a perfect person. And every single day we are learning and taking in our mistakes and trying to fix them, correct? But sometimes you might be the fucking problem. You might be that bully. And also, not everything's about you. Know that you can make mistakes and hurt people, but learn to apologize and learn, period, at that. Um, Stop trying to be perfect and know that you are flawed and need growth as well. Also, I feel like a big problem with this, especially when it comes to shortcomings, like all across the board, right? Any mistake that we make, if it either, I feel like it goes both ways. Like, some people have things that were just thrown in their face their entire life. Like, I do. And, like, I have two sides of that. But some people, they heard about their fucking shortcomings from their people around them. They told them their mistakes. Cool. And then we have those people that didn't. Like, we just didn't hear anything. I was here. I had to kind of make up what I think I did in my head, right? So it tends, like, as we get older, it makes us not want to sit with ourselves. We don't want to do this reflection. We don't want to do this shadow work. We don't want to learn how to be a more efficient person because either we feel like we're not going to do it right, we're always going to mess up, it's the other person's fault, yada, yada, yada. So many different things. But I feel like deep down, we all just need to learn how to sit with ourselves, how to grow over time, and how to find the good and the bad in our actions that we do every day. But also reflect on what happened with various situations. Like, take in. Okay, guys, I am back. So sorry about that. The boys got home mid podcast, and I kind of forgot about them for a minute, gonna be honest. Forgot they were both coming home from school and work. But where was I at? I was saying, what actions did you take and what was the outcome? You know, have you ever caught yourself picking up on one of those things, one of these shortcomings or issues that has happened, and you reflect on it? What growth did you see? Did you see any growth at all? Did you see your viewpoint change on it, like, wholeheartedly? And what actions did you take? How did you, because I know it's not every day we can pick up on all these. Like, a lot of times I cannot pick up on them. Like, in our last episode, I was talking about how I had an issue at work. Not an issue per se, but it was one of my other coworkers, and she was talking about her play that she was in at A&T and the Wiz and yada yada yada. And I was joking because I'm not a musical person. I hate watching musicals, and I've always had best friends who were like in the theater. Like, one of them, like, she was always getting the fucking lead. Like, all of them. And I've been around it for so long. And I've tried to force myself to like them, but I can't. And I was joking with her, and I was like, I'm not coming. And we were like, I was laughing and shit. And then my other friend who was there, I'm not going to say she went about it correctly, but, she kind of was like, yeah, well, this is how you made so-and-so feel. And I was like, oh my God, did I? And I had to think to myself, I was like, damn, do I come off as an asshole sometimes? Because, like, my jokes are they're very shallow. Like, they're very dark humor, but they're also very, like, straightforward. Like, it does not sound like I'm joking, but I am. And I was like, damn, did that come off wrong? So I texted her, and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry if this came off like that. I was 100% joking. You know, I'll support you always. Yada, yada, yada. And that was something I was like, at the end, I was like, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. Because I never would have knew I hurt her feelings if nobody was there to tell me my own shortcomings, because I clearly didn't pick up on it myself. Like, that is a situation. Those are some actions I took. Because honestly, communication is key whenever, you know, you catch yourself doing something like this. But also, how can we learn from that? How can we learn from our shortcomings? And how can we use them as, like, past mistakes or situations to be a better person? You know? And how can we also reflect if we have grown to be a better person from learning? And just because someone said, I didn't like that, I didn't like what you did, it does not mean you're a bad person. And this take was actually from Jordan. And it really stuck with me because I often feel like when people point out my wrongs or they tell me something I did, I'm a bad person. Like, I automatically go into self-destruct mode. I'm automatically like, oh my God, like, I should die. Like, this is horrible. I can't believe I'm, like, such a mean person. I'm a bitch, yada, yada, yada. Whole time, it's not that deep. Whole time, they were just, like, letting you know, hey, I didn't like that. They were setting a boundary with you. And I was just telling Jairo this as they came home because I was explaining the podcast episode to him. And I was like, he was talking about, like, when I will grab, like, like finish off a drink in the fridge, he'll often blame it on himself and be like, oh, well, Michi wanted that, or like give me the benefit of the doubt, or Michi, or Ann, whoever. And I was like, yeah, that's true, but you have to learn that at the end of the day, that's a shortcoming within yourself. You are not creating boundaries. You are emotionally neglecting yourself in that way because you're putting the blame on you. And just so much more, like that's a lack of respect for yourself. And I told him, which is something I also needed to hear from myself, is just because I don't like your boundary does not mean that is not your boundary at the end of the day. That is something I do not need to be crossing and or doing, whether I like it or not. You know, you stand on that, and I'll either have to learn how to expect it or shut the fuck up. Like, that's what it is. So I think that was a really good like add on as well, because it ties in with the just because you did something that somebody didn't like doesn't mean you're a bad person. Because often I'll be like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have did that. Yada, yada, yada. It's not that deep. And I'm here to tell you it's not that deep. I'm also here to tell myself it's not that deep. Okay? Because it's really not that fucking deep. I need to get my head on my ass and stop being so sensitive. Okay? And if I am, communicate. That's it. But I'm not going to say a bad person, but you only take the bad route when you ignore what's being said, when you have no introspection at all, you don't take any accountability, and someone's telling you, hey, I didn't like this, and you're like, well, I'm sorry, you didn't like that. Or like just a half-ass apology or no apology at all, and being like, well, I just wouldn't do anything like wrong. I'm sorry that you took it like that. That, first of all, that is so fucking condescending. It's low-key manipulative. Like, there's so much wrong with shit like that, and that's why I say that's the more negative end of this side. You only get viewed as a bad person when you do not learn, when you do not reflect on your bad behaviors, when you do not take the time to grow and, elevate as a person, truly. And I think that's why, like, a lot of times when you get into your adulthood, like, when we're talking to, like, Gen Zers are talking to, like, Gen X, millennials, like, our parents and shit like that, I feel like we are overly self-aware and they're not self-aware. So it's like, no offense at all. No offense to my Gen Xers, anybody out there. Love y'all. But it's like, I feel like that's where our disconnection comes in, because society has raised us to be so overly aware about what's wrong, what we're doing wrong, like our imperfections and shit like that. When I feel like for the Gen X, they were kind of told, shut the fuck up. That does not matter. It is not that important. Please cut that shit out. And they had to deal with it internally, right? And that is not good, because like, you can't see where you're doing wrong, and they're like, well, I am doing nothing wrong. And I'm like, what the fuck? Bitch, I just said what you... Or like, you hurt my feelings. Well, stop being so sensitive. What the fuck? And you're like, there's no... I feel like that's why we get into it with our parents so much in my age, as like my age specifically, because that's the age our parents are. Because we feel like they're not seeing us. It's like two different sides of the fucking coin. Nobody is seeing the other one. So I feel like that's another example of some shortcomings and shit like that, and an example of not growing and ignoring what the other person said. But also another key point in this is be open to criticism, because you can't do any of the other stuff I said without being open to criticism, without the urge to learn and be a better person every single day. Right? A lot of people will sit here and be like, oh my gosh, I'm perfect myself. Like, I don't need to change. I don't need to do that. And that's not healthy. That is not healthy. I feel like even if we are changing for the worse, constant up and down change is normal. But change itself needs to happen. All right? And people who want the best for you will often tend to correct you in areas, which I fucking hate. I'm going to be honest. Because I've always had people who kind of coddled me my whole life. Everybody sugarcoated everything, right? And then getting in a relationship with Michi, that man does not hold my hand for shit. Like, he will hurt my feelings right then and there if he has to, just to tell me what the fuck I was doing. And I'll be like, alright, bro. I'm about to cry. Like, why the fuck are you being so mean? And I lose my shit personally. But it's like, he is trying to help me be a better me sometimes. Like, most times. But he's just trying to help me, or just trying to get me True. And trying to get me to be a better person. And like I said before, after I realized this is not an attack, it's them helping. And them helping you to be a more like conscious and aware person when it comes to things is beautiful. And when you have people like that in your life, you have to realize that is a blessing in disguise, truly. And we might want to fight every time they're like, oh, but you did this wrong. Mink, because stop. What the fuck? But yeah, that's really all I had to say for this episode. I know I felt like I sounded like an idiot because I was moving between so many different things at once. But I really hope you understood. I really hope you like grasped what I was dead ass saying, because at the end of the day, we cannot elevate and grow in life and want so much for ourselves if we cannot learn the worst parts of us. If we cannot break them down, analyze them, and grow from it, right? But all right, I love you guys so much. Like I said before, follow Did I Overshare on Instagram and TikTok, and that's it. I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. I love you so much.